Okay, so what do you guys think about the bombing in Syria that just happened by Donald Trump, and he didn't ask Congress's approval? Do you think that that is like George Bush doing it, like going into Iraq? I mean, it's the same thing, right? Because after 9/11, they were specifically supposed to only go into war with that War Powers Act if the people were linked to Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Well, I certainly don't support the bombing of any country, especially Syria.
There you go.
I don't support any bombing by the U.S. military. In fact, I'm completely opposed to the amount of money that we pour into this gaping hole of our military-industrial complexes.
There you go.
And turning our foreign policy over to people like Trump scare the hell out of me, when in the meantime we're completely savaging all of our diplomatic corps. It just does not make sense, and it's not a true representation of what the people want.
Our diplomatic heart. Now, can you get into that a little bit? Like, what do you see happening if we keep globalizing to nationalism?
Well, I see that happening actually all over the world, and it's a sad and it's a time of. It seems like it's a time of fear that's largely driven by the media.
Yeah.
And certain kinds of stations like Fox News and such.
Well, they lied about 9/11. Fox News did, certainly.
Yeah,
but when Glenn Beck brought up the fact that the Federal Reserve is private on Fox News, they fired him.
Oh, okay.
So, what do you think about the Federal Reserve actually being private, run for profit, and offshore?
Yeah, well, I couldn't speak to that. It doesn't sound good. I don't know much about that.
So I think we all need to go look up the Federal Reserve and its history. Woodrow Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act because these tycoons all met at Jekyll Island in Georgia. There's a book by G. Edward Griffin called The Creature from Jekyll Island. I think you guys should read it. It's basically showing that the central banks are a form of shadow government enterprise, like a mafia. Yeah, and they're all.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and if we all got to the bottom of that, then it wouldn't matter what. See, it doesn't matter if Trump does anything because the Federal Reserve's still in charge, you see? Like Obama, he was a puppet, Trump's a puppet, Bush was a puppet. Kennedy, did you know Kennedy tried to end the Federal Reserve and then was assassinated shortly after?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I feel a lot of shadow puppets. That basically who are presidents and largely controlled by the money interests in our country. So Syria, we know, is also potentially more about oil. We know Iraq was about oil. That's now coming to the fore.
Yeah.
And then even the recent bombing of Syria, for example, by Israel is a very dangerous sign right now. That really what's happening is we're opening up Syria for a war between Israel and Syria and Iran.
Yeah.
It's a very scary time.
It's a proxy war of sorts.
It's a proxy war, absolutely.
And what do you think about how they're constantly, any country that's not a part of the IMF or World Bank enterprise is automatically bombed by NATO?
That seems to be the case, yeah.
So that's my main point, is that NATO during Obama was telling our military what they can and can't do, that they take orders from NATO. That's what our generals said.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll leave it at that. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
You too.